بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. All praises are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, most beneficent, most merciful. Blessings and salutations on Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, it is a great pleasure for me and a great honor to be standing before you, to see fellow Muslim brothers in another continent is a great source of happiness, and to see so many people gathering is also another means of happiness. In the times we're living in, when technology and science is advancing so much and has progressed to the extent where some people think that it has reached its peak. At the same time, I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the world is retrogressing in spirituality and morality. And it is for this very reason we need to come to gatherings such as these, which our masajid and our centers provide, to get a spiritual dose once in a while. Because we know we are surrounded by evil and vice. We live in such environments where it is very difficult for our spiritual level to increase. It is very difficult for us to stay on the straight path. So it is imperative that we come to these gatherings and we benefit from the scholars we have in our midst. Alhamdulillah, in New York I have seen there are plenty of ulama. So we should benefit from these ulama. We should respect the ulama that we have in our midst. They have sacrificed a portion of their life to study deen, and for who? Who have they sacrificed their time for? So they can benefit us, they can benefit the community. They have sacrificed 6 years, 7 years, some even 9 years. They have left their friends, left their families, and for who? First and foremost for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and second, for us. Who would have thought 30 or 40 years ago there would be so many ulama in the city of New York? Who would have thought there would have been so many masajid and madaris and marakiz? And whose effort is this? So we should appreciate the ulama we have around us and the a'immah, the imams of our masajid. Coming to today's topic of friendship, we have heard growing up what kind of friends we should have, what kind of friends would be cool for us to have, what crowd we should move around in. We have grew up on the streets, we see people hanging around the street corners, and many a times we are attracted to these people. Many a times we think that if I hang around with this so-and-so person, if I stay with this crowd in school, then I will have some status, then I will be important. But what we really need to know as Muslimin and as believers, what does Islam tell us? What does Islam tell us about friendship? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us with regards an integral part of our life? Because as human beings, we will have social interaction every day. Whether we go to school, whether we go to college, whether we go to work, every day we will have to deal with people. Every day we are going to see our friends. Every day we will see people in our community. So what does Islam tell us? If we look in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O people who believe, ittaqullah, be conscious of your believer. Be conscious of your creator, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa kunu ma'a as-sadiqeen, and stay in the company of the righteous. So what is Islam telling us? Stay in the company of who? Of the righteous. Wa kunu ma'a as-sadiqeen. And now who are the sadiqeen? Sadiqeen are those who are the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sadiqeen are those who try their utmost to follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we may think this is too hard. It's hard nowadays. We go to school, we go to mixed schools, we go to work. The work environment is mixed. It is too hard to stay 100% on the straight path. But have we even tried? We just got to this thought that is too hard and left it. When was the last time we thought, let me at least try? Let me at least see how the grass looks on the other side. So if we follow the teachings of Quran and the teachings of Sunnah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make life easier for us. If we make at least an intention to stay in the company of the righteous, of the pious, stay in good company, then it will have a big impact in our life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open the doors and make it easy for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it such that you will not need to mix with the wrong crowd. Allah ta'ala will make it such that the time you spend, you'll spend correctly with the right people. We find in a hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam where he explains to us exactly what we need to know for a good friend. What does Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tell us? We need to look for three things. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, they asked Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about friendship. So he said that who would be your best friends? Said that they, as usual, the Sahaba always reply, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam, that Allah and His Messenger know a'lam, know more than everyone, know more than all of us. Then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, the three qualities you need to look for in a friend, and which are a true friend. If you do not find these three qualities in a friend, then this friend of yours is not a friend, or is not a good friend, is not a righteous friend. The first is, مَنْ ذَكَّرَكُمُ اللَّهَ رُؤْيَتُهُ, that upon seeing this person, he reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now question yourselves in your heart, how many of your friends remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And how many of your friends remind you of football stars? How many of your friends remind you of hip-hop stars? How many of your friends remind you of basketball players? Which circles are we moving around in? Are we moving around in the right circles? Ask yourselves right now. The first point again, مَنْ ذَكَّرَكُمُ اللَّهُ رُؤْيَتُهُ, that this friend of yours, upon seeing him, he reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second, وَزَادَ فِي عِلْمِكُمْ مَنْطِقُهُ, that every time you meet this friend of yours, every time he speaks, he increases your knowledge. How many of our friends increase our knowledge? And how many of our friends sit for hours on end in idle chit-chat? How many of our friends sit with us and smoke one joint after another and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk until you don't even know what you're talking about? Am I right or wrong?
Right.
And how many of our friends influence us in such a way and make us reach a stage where we think there's nothing wrong with doing this. So what, I grew up with this guy. Me and him grew up on the same block. We're from the same neighborhood. Just because you grew up on the same block, just because you knew him from the time he was a baby and you were a baby, that does not mean that he is a righteous person. That just means he is someone you knew from birth. Because Islam is telling us, and the Sharia, the Quran is telling us that the friend you need to adopt is this kind of friend. Then the third point, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَذَكَّرَكُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ عَمَلُهُ, that this person's actions remind us of what? Of the akhirah. This person's actions remind us of the akhirah. So now, I want you to ask yourself again, for this third point, how many of our friends remind us of the akhirah? And how many of our friends remind us of Saturday night? How many of our friends remind us about all the people they met that week, all the dates they went on? How many people remind us, how many of our friends remind us of all the wrong they done in the week? And how many of our friends again remind us of the akhirah? So you need to look at your friend circle and see which one of them are really your true friends. And many of us are young here and many of us are old. I want the ones who are young to ask the elderly here, how many of their friends they were with when they were young do they still know now? How many of the friends they went to school with do they still know now? How many of the friends they thought were their homeboys at the age of 16, 17, 18? When they reached the age of 30, 35, you don't know that person anymore. If you go through any hardship, he will never answer your phone call. If you go to prison, he will never come to see you. If you go to hospital, who's the first person there? Who's the first person there? Is it your best friend? Or is it your parents? So you need to ask yourself, who are your true friends? And most of our friends, the Quran even explains what kind of friends we have. When the Quran, in the verse of the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you not seen those people who make their desires their deity, make their desires their God? How many people do we know that just follow their desires all day? And we live in a time where there's a whole sect of people called hedonists, where all they do is follow their pleasure. Their whole entire purpose in life is follow pleasure. But we as mu'mineen know that our pleasure is where? In the akhirah. الدنيا سجن المؤمن وجنة الكافر. That the world is a prison for a believer and paradise for a non-believer. So this already answers the question of people who ask, why do non-believers have so much? Why are they living in Beverly Hills and we're living over here? Because this is not our place for fun. This is not our place for us to make big friend circles and become the top boy. This is not the place for us to get in big mansions. This is not the place for us. Nobody's saying you cannot aspire towards these things, but with the right intention. No one's saying you cannot go to work and have a nice life, but you need to have the right intention. What is your priority in life? Are your friends your priority in life? If your friends are your priority in life, what kind of friends do you have? Let me ask you all a question and answer it for yourself. What wakes you up in the morning? What is the main reason you get out of bed in the morning? Can anybody answer? Is it your friends? To go to school. Why do you go to school? Most people go to school for recess. And the fun they have after school. So you need to ask yourself, what wakes you up in the morning? What is the reason you get up in the morning? We have a saying in English, I don't know if you guys hear it here in America, where they say, I love people who openly hate me. I love people who openly hate me. But I hate people who pretend to love me. Does everyone understand? So, and this saying also relates to a hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says, يَكُونُ فِي آخِرِ الزَّمَانِ, that towards the end of time you will find أقوام, you will find people, you will find nations, you will find groups of people. إخوان العلانية, that they are, on the surface they are your brothers. Outwardly they will act like they're your friends. أعداء السريرة, but inside they are your enemies. Inside they are hypocrites. In front of you they will act all nice. As soon as you turn the corner, they will talk bad about you. And how many of us has this already happened to? How many of us fight over small issues? How many of your friends have left you because of a girl? How many of your friends have fought with you because of $5 or $10? So we need to look and we need to spend our time with righteous friends. And we need to look around us and see what kind of friends we associate ourselves with. We all have a level of spirituality. Everyone, alhamdulillah, is conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone believes in Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Everyone reads salah to a certain extent. Everyone proclaims shahada and gives their zakah, and inshallah will go for hajj if they have the means. So everyone has a certain level of spirituality, but this level of spirituality will fluctuate every single day. How? By the company we keep around us. This spirituality is governed by the company we keep around us. Because you can ask yourself now, if in 7 days of the week, every single day you was to spend time in the company of a couple of friends who come to the masjid for salah. They might be at a basketball game, but when it is time for salah, they will stop and come for salah. Or you will spend time with a circle of friends who will carry on playing. What will you do? And what effect will this have on your own spirituality? So we know as human beings, we always interact, we always deal with people every single day. So I can't stress the point enough that وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ, stay with the righteous people. Because those very friends you have, on the day of Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us in the Quran what will happen with you and your best friend. In Surah Furqan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in an ayah, يَا لَيْتَ وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ, that on that day you will see the people biting their hands. They will be throwing their hands in their mouths and biting their fingers. And they will be saying, يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا, why did we not adopt the path of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Ya waylata, then they will carry on and say and curse themselves, that curse be upon me. Ya waylata laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila, that woe be unto me, curse be upon myself. Why did I take such and such as my friend? Why did I take him as my friend when I knew that staying in his company will lead me to start smoking? When I knew staying in his company would lead me to start smoking cigarettes, then it would go on to class C and class B and class A drugs. And staying in his company will make me hang around with the wrong crowd. Staying in his company will make me go to the wrong places on the weekend. Staying in his company will make me hang around with the wrong crowds in school. Staying in his company will not let me prosper in my studies, will not let me graduate. Staying in his company will not even let me look for a job. Staying in his company will take me away from my parents. Staying in his company will make me fight with my own brothers and sisters, your flesh, who are made with your own blood brothers you fight with because of your friend. And this very friend on the day of Qiyamah, you will curse him, and you will curse yourself, and you will say, why did I take such and such as my friend? So we really need to ask ourselves that, are we moving around in the right circles? Are our friends keep bringing us to the masjid or taking us away from the masjid? And we find in a hadith in Tirmidhi, which Shaykh Abdullah already mentioned, where Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, "Ar-rajulu ala dini khalilihi," that every person is on the deen of his friends, is on the religion, is on the same wavelength as his friends. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِدُ. So make sure you all see and check who are your friends. How true is this statement? You can reckon, if you want to know a person, look at the friend circles he hangs around in. I can see some people here maybe at marriageable age. If you want to see what kind of girl the girl is, look at her friends. Look at the circle she moves around in. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِدُ. Because you will see from the friends of that person, boy or girl, what kind of person he is. Someone might give you a report that such and such person is a good person. You can give your daughter in his hands. But have you checked the friends he hangs around with? That is how you will find out what kind of person this is. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is telling us, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِدُ. Check who are your friends. Because the same things, interests and hobbies your friends have, it will brush off onto you. And at the same time, we need to check ourselves, that what kind of company are we? What effect are we having on our friends? It's not always our friends' fault. As they say, it always takes two to tango. So we need to check ourselves. What kind of company are we? And the company we're having, not only on our friends, the effect of our company rubs off on our brothers and sisters in our house. It rubs off on our parents. And those of us who are parents, our company rubs off on our children. If you are swearing in the house, it will rub off on your children. If you are swearing as a big brother in the house, your younger brother, he will look up to you. So all of these things we need to keep in mind. That we look at our friends, but at the same time look at ourselves. Because I'm talking about friends, everyone's going to think now, oh, I'm going to look at my friends, what kind of friends do I have? But what kind of person are you? That's what we need to ask ourselves. And another explanation for this hadith of فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِدُ Why does Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tell us this? An easy example for us to understand, if we look at the fish in the sea. If you look at fish in the sea, they move around in groups, and you'll never find a fish of two different kinds of fish moving around together. You'll always find a whole, I don't know if you call them pockets or a school of fish. You'll only find one school of fish together. You won't see a whale and a shark, or a whale and a dolphin. You'll see two dolphins moving together. So that is why, in the same way, you'll see groups of people around in the neighborhood, and you'll see that there are people hanging around in one corner. You will know that the people in that corner are all kind of similar. They might not be exactly the same, but they will definitely have similar interests. Because al-jinsu yamilu ila al-jins, birds of a feather flock together. So that means we should also check what kind of circles we are moving around in. So if we want to change our life, if we want to see a change come into us, we may need to even sacrifice some of our friends. Now, this is a serious matter. For some of us, it is not that easy. You might have a friend that you grew up with, and right now he does a lot of wrong, but to you he's your best friend. But if you do not want to be one of these people on the day of Qiyamah who is cursing yourself, then you may need to sacrifice this friend of yours. You may need to sacrifice all of those friends for you to develop as a person. Because you need to remember, those friends are not going to come with you in the qabr. When you are 6 foot under, who will come with you? Tell me, who will come with you? Nobody is answering, because you all know the answer. Nobody needs to say it aloud, because we all know. Those friends who you used to go with on Saturday nights are not going to come with you in the qabr. And on the day of Qiyamah, you will not be able to put the blame on them, because you are a mature adult. You are baligh. You are accountable for your own actions. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who is our role model, if we look in his life and study the seerah, we will see he never had any friends. Did Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have any friends? Can anybody name one friend of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam?
Bakr Siddiq.
Abu Bakr Siddiq is radiallahu ta'ala anhu is the only one that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if I was to have a friend, it would have been Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. If I was to have a friend. Why did Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say this? Because his heart was only for who? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had reached the highest stage of muhabba. The highest stage of muhabba is called khulla. Khulla means when you cleanse your whole heart and it is only for one thing. All of the love in your heart is only for one thing. And all of the love in Arabic is called khulla of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you look at all the Sahaba, look at the name Sahaba. What does a Sahabi mean? A Sahabi is someone who has seen Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the state of Iman and died with Iman. But the word itself, Sahabi, does not mean friend. It means companion. So from this itself, the word Sahabi, we can take lesson. How beautiful is Islam? How serious is this matter? And most of our friends, many of them lie. Many of them deceive people. Many of them do fraud. And not only do they do it, they take pride in it. We will find in hadith, al-mu'minu la yakdib. A true believer does not lie. So why are you hanging around with someone who's a lying person? Why are you hanging around with someone who's deceitful? Why are you hanging around with someone who takes pride in giving difficulty to someone? This person is not a true mu'min. He does not have the qualities of a true mu'min. So we need to take stock of who our friends are. And we need to take stock of ourselves, and what kind of friends are we? And are we benefiting the people around us, or are we harming them? Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, in his famous kitab Ihya Ulumuddin, he mentions 3 types of people. He says, you find in the animal kingdom 3 kinds of animals. And then he explains each three of those categories. He says the first category are those animals who have benefit but do not harm anybody. Like for example sheep, you have cows, they give milk, you have meat. Then you get the second category of animals who do not benefit in any way but they harm. For example predators, the lions, the tigers, they have no benefit to anybody. You cannot eat a tiger unless you're in China, I don't know, maybe they might eat, they eat all sorts of things. But they are of no benefit but they do harm. And then you get the third category of animals who are of no benefit and do not even harm anybody. For example, foxes, a jackal, they are of no benefit to anyone. Foxes are rodents. In London we find foxes around in the city area now because they've built around all the woods, so they have no habitat left. So you find the foxes coming and raiding our dustbins. But foxes and jackals and animals such, they do not benefit, nor do they harm anyone. So now Imam Ghazali rahimahullah brings this example for us to think, for us to ponder, that what kind of people are we? Are we of the first category, where we are a benefit and do not harm anybody? Or are we of the second category, where we are a harm and we do not benefit anyone? Or are we of the third category, where we are of no benefit or no harm? Then Imam Ghazali further goes on to say that you should try your utmost to be like the first category, to be of benefit to everyone around you, and not harm anybody. If you cannot do this, then be of the third category, where you do not harm nor do you benefit. But if you cannot be these two, then do not go to the second category, where you are harming people and not benefiting. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he gives a beautiful example for what kind of friends we need to adopt. He tells us in a hadith which is narrated on the authority of Abi Musa al-Ashari radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and it comes in Bukhari, where Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ الْجَلِيسِ الصَّالِحِ, that the example of a good friend, وَجَلِيسِ السُّوءِ, and an evil friend, is like كَحَامِلِ الْمِسْكِ وَنَافِخِ الْكِيلِ, is like a person who sells musk, who sells perfume, and a blacksmith. So he's giving us a similitude of a good person and a bad person. And now this example is a very easy example for us to understand, because you have to remember that the hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the authentic tradition, is for everybody. Is for the layman, is for someone who has not read or studied, and it is also for intellectual people. So the examples you will find in hadith and in Quran are very simple and easy examples for everyone, so it can come to our understanding. So the first example he gives is that an example of a person who is good company, a good friend, is like a perfume seller. Why? Because the perfume seller, you will either إِمَّا أَن يُحْدِيَكَ وَإِمَّا أَن تَبْتَعَ مِنْهُ وَإِمَّا أَن تَجِدَ مِنْهُ رِيحًا طَيِّبًا, that you will either buy something from the perfume seller, you will buy a nice perfume, a nice it, or the perfume seller may give you something if you hang around his shop. The third is you will at least get some good scent on your clothes. Many of us go there and get the testers and just put it on. So this is an example of a good friend. That a good friend, you will definitely take something from him, or he will give you something, or at the very least his goodness will rub off on you. The fact that he is a good person, the fact that he does not lie, the fact that he is truthful, the fact that he does not do fraud, the fact that he comes to the masjid, the fact that he is good to his parents and to his fellow brothers and sisters, Muslim or non-Muslim, the fact that he does not give dirty looks to everyone walking past, the fact that he does not swear at everyone if they cut him up on the road, all these small qualities will rub off on us. But at the same time, If we have a bad friend, what is the example of a bad friend Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gives us? Is a blacksmith. If we go to a blacksmith and hang around in his workshop, then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us that إِمَّا أَن تَجِدَ مِنْهُ رِيحًا مُنْتِنًا, that you will, either your clothes will burn from all the sparks flying off the iron that he's burning, or a bad smell, a bad odor will definitely come onto your clothes. So from a bad friend, if we have a bad friend, he will either penetrate, he will penetrate our hearts in a bad way, or at the very least, if we are strong, some of his qualities will definitely rub off on us. If we were a person who never thought, or when we were at a young age, many of us, we think that no, I will never do this, I will never take drugs, I will never make zina. This is a grave sin. I've heard from the masjid, I learned when I was young, when I went to madrasa on the weekends, that our ustad told us, no, you cannot do this. But you will see that as you get older, because of the people, you do not realize it's because of the people you're hanging around with. But as you get older, and you reach your late teens or 20s, you'll think to yourself, no, that sin's not that bad. You know, everyone does it, why can't I do it? My friend's doing it, why can't I do it? Nothing's happening to him. But there is something happening to him, but you do not realize. That thing that's happening to him is between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is not for you to judge. If he is doing something, that does not mean we have to do it. So if we are hanging around with him, this hadith is telling us that definitely some of his effects will rub off on us. In the same way, if we go to a blacksmith workshop, the bad smell and the iron burning, all of that will definitely fall onto us. And I'll give you another example of a story of how company affects us. Just recently, we heard on the news that there was a Muslim woman living in Norway, and she had a child. And because now it's so easy to meet online, she was online and surfing the net, maybe on a dating site or on Facebook, or I don't know exactly what it was. But she met up with a male in UK, and they got to chatting and they liked each other, as everyone just keeps on, you know, putting on their best performance, just so they can, you know. So they were interacting online, and this man came to find out that this woman that lives in Norway had a child. So they hadn't even met. One is in Norway, one is in England. And they got so deep in an online relationship that they fell in love. I don't know how, but they fell in love. But this man said to her that you have a child and I don't want any children. He said to her, I don't want any children. So the only way me and you are going to get together is if this child is out of the picture. So now I just want you guys to ponder for 1 second what effect company has on us. And this company is not even direct company, this is online company. This is cyber company. It's a new generation. So this woman, you'll be shocked when I tell you this, you might not even believe me, but it was on the news. And the stuff that comes on the news, we know it's not 100% true, but there has to be some truth to it for them to be able to give the news. This woman, I can see everyone smiling, but the smile is not going to be there when I say this next statement. This woman took this child and called this man on Skype. He came on, they done a video call, and she murdered her child in front of this man. Now just think, what effect company has on us. Just think what people do for other people that they barely even know, that they have never even met. So now do you believe me when I tell you a company has an effect on you? So now do you not think it is time that you sacrificed some of your bad friends for your own good, for the good of yourself and for the good of your family, for the good of your parents, for the good of your own life? Because these people, believe me, they will never like to see you prosper in life. They may be your best friend now, but if you're earning more money than them, inside they will burn. But if they are your true friends, and if they are righteous, if they are muttaqeen, if they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they will be happy for you. And if you youngsters don't believe me, ask the elders what happens. If you are earning more money than the friend you grew up with, it is a whole other story. He will start spreading rumors about you which aren't even true. But when he comes in front of you, oh hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you brother? And he just carries on like nothing's wrong. But as soon as you turn around, so we need to see who we adopt as our friends. So without taking any more time, we know in our times, in the communities and neighborhoods we live in, it is hard in the sense that there is much vice and much evil around us. So we should try to build a bond and a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should build a bond and a connection with the scholars we have around us. We should build a bond and a connection with the good friends, the good people in the community. And we should be a benefit to the community. We should educate ourselves and develop as people and benefit everyone around us and work towards the akhirah. Because that is the bigger picture. The bigger picture is not this world. This world is just the means. This world is asbab. The world is darul asbab. It is a place for means, for us to reach our goal, and our goal is where? Our goal is the akhirah. So, ask yourselves also, what are you working towards? Are you just going through every day without any purpose? Are you just waking up in the morning, going out, hanging out with the boys and coming back home and getting shouted at by your parents and then going to sleep? Ask yourself what you are doing. Ask yourself, what's my purpose in life? Have some goal, have some aspiration. Don't just go fly day in, day out, eating, drinking, going to the toilet and going to sleep. What kind of a life is that? If you are hanging around with friends who are doing that, then what kind of friends do you have? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first of all protect myself and then yourselves and the whole ummah from evil people, from evil crowds, from hanging around with the wrong crowds, from us, and save us from the thinking that the people that we are hanging around with, just because we grew up with them, we have to be their best friend, or we have some kind of loyalty to them just because we grew up on the streets together. I grew up in London. Half the people I went to school with, I don't even know them anymore. And when I was in school, I used to think that me and this so-and-so person, we're going to be friends forever. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq to practice upon what has been said. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a means of hidayah for us and the whole of mankind. And I thank you again, and Imam Saab and the Masjid for giving us time to share some words with you. Wa akhiru da'wana.